Old Kliff Kingsbury gets a job. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Old Cliffy, baby. Gets a job. Okay, I'll discuss it. It's going to be one segment. It's not going to be a bashing. It's going to be a lifetime achievement from Kliff Kingsbury post-Texas Tech to Kliff Kingsbury post-USC quarterbacks coach or whatever the hell he was. And then the second segment, I'm going to pivot and discuss the biggest difference between Kliff Kingsbury and Drew Petzing's offenses. And then finally, Budda Baker is at the Pro Bowl this weekend. Does he get enough credit? And yes, for the naysayers, I'll throw the wrinkle in of does he get too much credit? Budda Baker is more polarizing than I think he should be. He is. So I wanted to give him a segment. And, we've got a lot of free agency talk. Senior Bowl's wrapping up. The game is tomorrow. And we will have, I'll do a rundown of some of my favorite guys as I discussed earlier in the week and kind of the culmination of their time at the Senior Bowl, pros, cons, and see which would be the best fit for the Cardinals as we shift here into free agency dome of, I need the football season to be over. I never wanted the Super Bowl to be the week after the conference championship because the buildup is, it's the best. It is. It's great. All of it is fun. All of it is great. I'm ready for it to be over so we can really officially pivot and start talking about how Chris Jones is going to be an Arizona Cardinal. What? What did you hear? Kliff Kingsbury is the new offensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders. And your boy Q, host of Locked On Raiders, had me on his radio show asking about what the play calling was like for Kliff Kingsbury and what it was like as an experience. So everydayers that I wasn't ever really the biggest fan, never really thought he deserved the job. Think he hindered Kyler Murray's ability to, grow and get better and mature as a quarterback and as a leader. And they completely fumbled their 7-0 and 10-2 start in 2021. And I'm not Uncle Ricoing this. It's topical because Kliff Kingsbury just got a job. And Q asked me, he's like, so what was it like? I was like, disjointed. A lot of go routes on third and short. And never taking the easy route, always trying to make it fantastical. And I think that's true. And Kyler Murray wasn't perfect, okay? This wasn't an only Kliff Kingsbury issue for 4 seasons. But by all accounts, Kliff Kingsbury getting an offensive coordinator job, this is the fascinating part. This is the social psychology experiment of this. Now we're going to get to see from afar what he's able to do when he has one job. I've been a huge proponent of not giving new head coaches play calling ability just because they're an offensive-minded person. I think that's stupid. Being a head coach is difficult in and of itself. Being a first-time head coach is almost impossible. While calling plays, I feel like there's way too much on the plate. I know he spent a lot of time at the facility. He was first one in, last one out. Not sure what he was doing the entire time because things weren't necessarily working, but I'm fascinated and root for him. I'm rooting for him to succeed. Truly. I mean, it was never about him as a person. I've interviewed him a couple times. Sweetheart. Nice gentleman. Okay? He's a cool guy. And he had no business being a head coach in the NFL. Both can be true. But I'm fascinated to see if when he's given one job, call the plays, run the offense, mold the quarterback, what it's going to be like. He's got Devontae Adams. Okay? He's got Michael Mayer. He's got one of the younger, new and up-and-coming tight ends. They've got Josh Jacobs. Not sure what they're going to do with him. Got Aiden O'Connell. I don't know what they're going to do with the quarterback position. I don't know if they're going to roll back with Jimmy G. I have no idea. What I do know is, to Kliff Kingsbury's credit, he yielded us the ability to witness some of the most outside the box, incredibly timed play calling that I've ever seen in my life. Every day, as you've heard me say this a lot, and I think this is the closest I can get to explaining Kliff Kingsbury as a play caller. Kliff Kingsbury puts together a great movie trailer, but a lot of the times the movie isn't very good. For my Entourage fans out there, it's like Medellin. If you haven't watched Entourage, first of all, watch it. Second of all, Medellin was this movie, and the movie trailer was incredible, and the movie was terrible. That's Kliff Kingsbury as a head coach. But to his credit, he did a whole bunch of other things. Like, he was in charge of a whole bunch of other things in theory. So if he's able to go into Vegas, rewrite the script on that Josh McDaniels offense, and him and Antonio Pierce, it's not a motley crew. Antonio Pierce is a very respected guy. Obviously, was at ASU before going over to Vegas, and those two could definitely brew something up in the desert in Vegas. I just don't know if Kliff Kingsbury, given one job, could allow him to level up in a sense where he'll have all that added bandwidth to just control the offense, if that'll be the elixir necessary for him to really blossom as a play caller. I don't know. Because we never seen it. We haven't seen it. And if he's able to transform that offense, I'll be the first one rooting for him, truly. And this isn't me back. Well, if he produces, then you got to flip the script. He was terrible in Arizona. Okay, that's not going to change. That doesn't mean he can't be great having one job. Now, if we see a lot of go routes on 3rd and 2. And we see no motion, Devontae Adams having that little bush route tree, left side, in front of the sticks that DeAndre Hopkins had for a long time. I don't know. Maybe he's learned a bunch from his time here, and he can go there and blossom. I hope he does. And I don't mean that tongue-in-cheek. I don't mean that sarcastically. I don't mean that outside of one iota outside of true rooting, raw style from me to him. Truly. I think it'd be great. We just need to see it. And if he's got a new playbook, if he's tweaked, if he's trimmed the fat on some things, if they decide to run the ball a lot more, but not focus just on Josh Jacobs as the one production maker, like they did with James Conner, be it the run game and the pass game. And when that stopped, everything else kind of crumbled. It'd be great. I'd love to see it. So good for him for getting a gig. Usually, human beings, they have the ability to change, but the core of you doesn't. It's genetics. We'll see. We'll see if he can turn over a new leaf in Vegas. I hope he does. Because Antonio Pierce, by all accounts, is exactly what Vegas needs. Maybe Kliff Kingsbury will be the guy to put a little flash on the offense while running it competently and without the clunkiness of the myriad 38-second 3-and-out series that the Cardinals had over his tenure here. We'll see. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. What's the biggest differences? What are the biggest differences, if I can speak English here on a Friday, between Kliff Kingsbury's offense and Drew Petzing's? Let's break that down. Shall we? Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. After this. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventures to the next level. How about one of these? How about the 2024 Nissan Rogue? It's perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive, Google built in to your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Okay. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. What about the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder? Has room up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced availability 4x4 capability. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your big next adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Cliffy Baby's fascinating. He's fascinating. You understand how things diffuse when it's not directly correlated to the team, you've been in the radio and podcast market for over 12 years with, or been a fan of for 40 years, whatever it may be. Watching it as a case study without any direct effect on was it the right call to fire him or not, you play with house money. Vegas thing for you. People can go into the new Kliff Kingsbury experience with zero what ifs. What if things were different? Things weren't different. What's 48 plus 17? 65 games. We saw 65 games of him coaching. It was plenty. He had a couple. Where the hell has that been moments, which are the most frustrating. Just like with Kyler Murray. We saw more from him, obviously, but the massaging out of those oh my God moments, as I call them, that's coaching. We should have seen double from Kyler Murray than what we saw during the first 4 years. Should have seen double. That's coaching. That's coaching. And that's what Kliff Kingsbury was unable to do. Now, if he's just going to be focused on the offense and that's it, perfect. I think that would be a perfect spot for him. Maybe if he does this for a couple of years and maybe he can get another head coaching gig. Who knows? But good for him. I hope he succeeds. I just have never seen him call plays in any different way than he has since he started it, in Texas Tech. There's no difference. So we'll see. What's the biggest differences between Kliff Kingsbury's offense and Drew Petzing's? Let's just do like a side-by-side. So while Kliff was a lot more go for the gold, Drew Petzing was a lot more boring. And boring, ladies and gentlemen, is how you win football games in the NFL most of the time. And say it with me now. Boring is okay. And boring isn't necessarily the nicest way to say that about Petzing's offense. It's just with so much up and down, what the hell is coming next? Wait, what a great play call to what was that 45-second 3-and-out on a must-2 first down get drive to seal the game scenario that we dealt with the last 4 years before 2023. It's you know what? Boring is good. Stable is good. Balanced is good. Poised is good. And punting is okay. So the biggest differences, one, the obvious, the air raid, the take massive shots down the field on 3rd and short, coupled with, second and 2, you just give the ball to the running back again. And if you don't get it, maybe you set up play action on 2nd down after a nice run on 1st down, and then you run the ball on 3rd down. And if it's 4th and 3 from your own 38, you punt it. And while I know aggression is becoming more and more rewarded as we go along the last couple of years, especially, it's really hit a fever pitch this year. I mean, look at Dan Campbell. Look at what he's done. And that's not a knock what happened in the conference championship game. I mean, that's how they got there. Drew Petzing has kind of taken a step back. In my opinion, everything's cyclical, okay? And I always go to the NBA because I think Daryl Morey ruined the NBA, and everybody thinks that shooting threes is the way to win championships, and Steph Curry ruined it even more because he's the exception to the rule, and now everybody's jacking more threes, and there's no real cohesion. There's no real offenses anymore. But the big man at some point will come full circle, and it'll be defense and passing the ball to 2 feet next to the basket instead of jacking 35-footers with 20 seconds left on the shot clock. The NFL is ahead of the curve more than the NBA in that, where it's coming back. Defense, scoring's been down, passing yards have been down. Run the ball, run play action, have your stud wide receivers on the outside, or have a good tight end up the seam, eat clock, and win games. So that's a lot closer to what Drew Petzing is doing. Drew Petzing is like the dictionary definition of the antithesis of what we've seen with all this high-powered offense over the last decade. But high-powered, whole lot of plays, 3-minute drives for touchdowns instead of 8-minute drives, things like that. What Drew Petzing showed this year with that talent before Kyler Murray came back, with Joshua Dobbs, who'd been with this team for less than 2 weeks before starting week 1, was this offense will work. This offense will work. And sure, it looked awful at times, and it sputtered, and they scored no points in the second half and things like that. Of course, look at the roster. But when Kyler Murray came back, the offense was like, oh, well, okay then. And sure, there were a couple deep balls down the sideline. It was a lot more intermediate passing than what we saw with Kliff Kingsbury. Kliff Kingsbury was either behind the line of scrimmage or 35 yards down the field. Getting 15, 17, 18-yard chunk gains has a higher probability of success and is, not far off from that 30-yard go route where you have like 0.1% 0.1 chance of catching the ball. Sometimes it works fine. But you'd much rather have Trey McBride line up, jam an edge rusher, and then go out and run a 15-yard route in the middle of the field, catch the ball, first down. One thing that Kliff Kingsbury's offense had in a positive way that Drew Petzing's didn't or doesn't is that wow one-play touchdown pass. Okay? And what I mean by that is, like, we saw a run by Joshua Dobbs to RPO, I think it was against Dallas, where he marched 45, or it was the Giants, where he marched 45 yards down the field on the left side by himself. Everybody, like, fooled out the cameraman. RPO housed it and ran over Xavier McKinney, I think, one of their safeties, with the Giants for a touchdown. So he has that, like, but it's got to be set up by play action. That's where the wow moments will come from Drew Petzing's offense. Kliff Kingsbury take a rabbit out of a hat. Like, where the hell did that come from? 75-yard house touchdown. But a lot of it, the gamble wasn't worth the risk in the grand scheme of things. In the lifetime achievement, every risk that Kliff Kingsbury took, the majority were not worth the potential execution of that specific play. Drew Petzing's offense is a metronome. And that's something that this organization, that's like the microcosm, the personification of what this Arizona Cardinals organization needs. So to go from Kliff to Petzing, it's like, okay, that's where you see the changing of the guard. That's where you see things really becoming different. 8-minute drives that end up in a field goal with Joshua Dobbs running the show. It's like, if you can have a sustained drive like that over over a half a quarter's worth of time of possession, and it ends up in points, regardless of the amount of points, the best offense the Cardinals have had this season, the best defense the Cardinals have had this season, was keeping the offense on the field and keeping the opposing offenses on the bench. And that's something that Drew Petzing brings that Kliff Kingsbury never even could shed a flame to. And that is a massive shift for this organization. Time of possession, if you don't have the ball, it's a lot harder to score. It's a lot harder to score points. And the Cardinals had the ball a lot more this year than they ever really did with Kliff Kingsbury as head coach. And I think that's the biggest shift and the biggest positive for this team, moving from Kliff to Drew Petzing. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. Does Budda Baker get enough credit? Does he get too much credit? Let's discuss it next as we roll on here on a Friday edition of Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked on Cardinals is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the quality candidates you want to talk to faster. Because at the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question: what's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? And LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team that you surround yourself with. LinkedIn isn't just another job board, man. They have a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. And it's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by DoorDash. I work from home. I work 16-hour days between the couple jobs that I have, and sometimes it's hard for me to cook something or have leftovers from the night before. DoorDash is just an app, a touch, and a let's go away, and then boop, food at your doorstep. The beauty of DoorDash is that they've got such a vast amount of restaurants, different in every city. In Arizona or in Phoenix, my two favorite ones, as I mentioned a couple times, Julio's 2, one of my favorite Mexican restaurants. Delivery, DoorDash. They don't deliver on their own. They do it through DoorDash. Postino, lighter fare. It's starting to get a little bit warmer, even though it's just the beginning of February. Postino is one of the best places for lighter fare, and DoorDash delivers. So 2 of my favorite places I can get at my doorstep. They don't have traditional delivery services. Even better, you can get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCK23. Get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCK23. Subject to change. Terms apply. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your force listen. Hopefully not forced. Hopefully first. Go to YouTube channel. Search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. I've had, I never really asked for this. Your presence here is the most important thing to me. If you would like to take 30 seconds and just go leave a review for me, it could just be stars. You don't have to write anything. I have a couple unruly fans from different organizations that I said some things that they didn't necessarily like. Heaven forbid that their team isn't perfect. That's kind of jettisoned my rating. If you like the show, would love a little help. Go leave a 5-star review if you'd like. Leave a comment. Anything helps. But more than anything, I'm just happy that you're here. So Budda Baker is representing the Arizona Cardinals at the Pro Bowl. Especially this season, going into the actual game playing and the holdout, the report that he requested a trade, but it was just kind of a leverage tool to get more guaranteed money, have the fully guaranteed contract this season, and then getting some elevators to his contract next year. It kind of put a bad taste in people's mouths. And I don't really know why. Budda Baker has been through some of the worst years this organization has seen. And all he does, show up, lead the team on defense with a big-ass smile on his face. And I love it. I love it. There's so few stars like him who are just playing for the love of football, and leading the team. And I know the few and far between is not. I mean, they're handful. There's a lot of people like him, not with the Arizona Cardinals, and not when the Arizona Cardinals desperately need somebody like him. Hey, Calais Campbell was like this. Unfortunately, Steve Keim didn't see another 6 years being played by Calais Campbell, and they let him walk a handful of years ago. Budda Baker is so important to this organization. Okay, Budda Baker has filled holes with no talent positions on the defensive side of the ball, probably more than he hasn't since being drafted in 2017. So just because he doesn't have a couple interceptions a year, doesn't have a couple sacks a year, doesn't have a couple forced turnovers a year, pass deflections, if you watch football and you see what Budda Baker means to this team on and off the field, he's deserving of the credit he gets and more, in my opinion. And listen, this isn't comparing the Arizona Cardinals to anybody else. This is looking at the history of the Arizona Cardinals, how many gaffes there's been contractually, draft-wise, not re-signing free agents, whatever it is, and having a guy like Budda Baker who's been with his team, I think this is going on his 8th season, how important that is to this organization. I don't know what to tell you. Oh, well, he's past his prime and, his numbers aren't. What are safety numbers? Joel Adams. Oh, Joel is the best tackling safety. Derwin James. These guys aren't blowing the roof off the stat sheet. That's not what the safety position is. Budda Baker is the last line of defense with Jalen Thompson for this defense, that which had maybe 2 NFL caliber starters this year ahead of them. They're the stopgap between Steve Keim's ineptitude and actually trying to play meaningful football. Imagine what those two will be like when there's actual NFL corners in front of them, when there's an actual pass rush, when there's an actual run defense and just a stuffer in the middle of the defensive line that can actually collapse the opposing offense's pocket. Imagine what it'll be like then. So please, while nobody's perfect, no player on the Arizona Cardinals has been perfect, Budda Baker's been burned just like anybody else. Questioning his worth to this team, both on and off the field, is a fool's errand. He should be getting more respect than he is now, not less. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Without you, there is no me. Remember that. I'll talk to you on Monday.